Matchups between the NFL's best offense and the NFL's best defense are rare. Most of the time, those two units are in different divisions, or even different conferences, so we often go the whole season without seeing them face off. This year, that is not the case. Mike Macdonald's number 1 ranked Seahawks defense and Sean McVay's number 1 ranked Rams offense not only met twice during the regular season, but will meet for a third time in the NFC Championship game, the second biggest stage that the NFL has to offer. It's the kind of matchup that comes around once every few years, not just because of its best-on-best nature and the height of the stage, but also because these units are uniquely innovative, each designed by a coach whose approach to play calling falls somewhere between unconventional and revolutionary. So today my goal is to give you an idea of what to expect on Sunday night. But in order to do that, we first need to talk about what these units aim to do and how things played out in their first two matchups this season. I'll start with Mike Macdonald's defense, which is one of the coolest units I've ever studied. Macdonald likes to live in 2 high safety shells with light boxes, which should make his team weak against the run, but it doesn't. In fact, the Seahawks were first in both EPA and yards allowed per rush during the regular season. They deploy nickel personnel, meaning 5 defensive backs at the second highest rate in the league, in part because they have a specialized nickel defender in Nick Emmanwori, who can play the run like a linebacker and the pass like a defensive back. They major in soft zone match coverages with 4-man rushes in front of them, but will throw some nasty blitzes at opposing quarterbacks, especially on third down. I covered this defense in depth on the channel about a month ago, so if you want a deeper dive into their schematic tendencies and structure, check that video out at the link in the description. As for Sean McVay's offense, we've seen a stark departure from his historical play calling tendencies this season, particularly in his personnel package deployment. McVay has always been the 11 personnel guy. 11 personnel meaning 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 receivers. When his offense took the league by storm in 2018, he deployed 11 on 90% of his calls. His 11 personnel call rate got all the way up to 95% in 2023. But this year, he's calling plays from 11 just 59% of the time, his lowest 11 personnel call rate in his head coaching career. Puka Nacua was injured in Week 6, and to compensate for his lack of a stud receiver on the outside, McVay leaned on his tight ends. But he didn't just replace Nacua with a tight end. He redesigned his entire offense. In weeks 1 through 5 before Nacua was injured, McVay deployed 13 personnel, meaning 1 running back, 3 tight ends, and 1 receiver, on a grand total of 0 offensive snaps. In week 7 against Jacksonville, his first game without Nacua in the lineup, he deployed 13 on 46% of his offensive snaps. Even when Puka returned in week 9, LA's use of 13 personnel remained high for a couple reasons. For one, bigger bodies on the field enhanced their run game. From 1 and 2 tight end sets during the regular season, LA averaged 4.5 yards per carry. From 3 tight end sets, they averaged 4.8. Not a huge difference, but heavier packages did improve LA's rushing attack. The real evidence of how heavy use of 3 tight end sets transformed McVay's offense is in the passing numbers. From 1 and 2 tight end sets during the regular season, Matthew Stafford averaged 7.7 yards per pass attempt. He completed about 64% of his passes and posted a passer rating of 98.9. From 3 tight end sets, he averaged 8.5 yards per pass attempt, completed nearly 70% of his passes, and posted a passer rating of 134.6. He also threw 20 touchdowns from those 3 tight end sets and did not throw a single interception. That's right, from 3 tight end sets this year, Matthew Stafford had a touchdown to interception ratio of 20-0. And the reason why LA was so good through the air from these heavy sets is because they force defenses into heavy sets of their own that are prone to explosive plays down the field. When McVay replaces receivers with tight ends, defenses tend to replace defensive backs with linebackers, which makes for advantageous matchups for LA's receiving threats and limits what defenses can do coverage-wise. Heading into the Week 11 matchup between LA and Seattle, McVay was deploying 3 tight end sets on nearly 50% of his calls. Now, Mike Macdonald is known for his refusal to match offensive personnel. He doesn't replace defensive backs with linebackers when offenses go heavy. The biggest question, if Macdonald was going to stay in nickel when LA went heavy, was how his defense would fare against the run. It seemed like we got our answer on McVay's first run call of that Week 11 game. It was first down from the Seattle 47-yard line, and LA came out in an I formation from 13 personnel. Seattle responded to the heavy look with light nickel personnel and a 2-high safety shell. McVay called mid-zone weak, and LA's numbers advantage up front showed up big time. The tight end, coming from the backfield, laid a nice block on Nick Emmanwori at the line of scrimmage, and Kyren Williams took it for a 30-yard gain. This is exactly what McVay was looking for. The explosive gain suggested that Seattle would have a long day on defense if they didn't leave their comfort zone to stop the run. But Macdonald didn't flinch. He stayed in nickel and was rewarded for his commitment to his call sheet 2 plays later. It was 2nd and 6, and the Rams showed Seattle the exact same pre-snap look they had seen 2 plays earlier. It was an I formation out of 13 personnel with motion at the snap from the tight end in the slot. The only difference between this look and the last one I showed you is that the formation was flipped. As Stafford takes the snap, the offensive line sells run action, and the tight end coming from the backfield inserts through the B gap. Until this frame, this play looks exactly like the last one. This is called marrying the run and the pass, and Sean McVay is so good at it. Despite the similarity in the appearance of these two calls, they intend to attack the defense in 2 completely different ways. The first time Seattle showed this look, McVay wanted to run it down Seattle's throat. This time, they want to pull Nick Emmanwori out of position to get Kyren Williams free behind him. As Emmanwori approaches the line of scrimmage to fit the run, Williams will get out into the flat. This should be a touchdown, but Emmanwori makes an incredible play, disengaging up front and forcing the incompletion. McVay's attempt to string plays together was a good one. Sequences of calls like this that condition defenders to miss an assignment are usually very effective, but this one failed because a special player made a special play. And that was the story of this matchup in Week 11. The Seahawks front 7 were just too good for the Rams to get anything going on the ground. After that 30-yard run, McVay called 11 more runs from 13 personnel, which generated a total of just 15 yards. Macdonald stuck to nickel, no matter what formations or personnel packages McVay threw at him. And despite his offense's advantage in the size department, McVay could not get the run game going. The Rams led for the entire second half. Sam Darnold threw 3 picks in the third quarter, and LA still struggled to put the game away because they just couldn't run the ball. Run stops on early downs forced the Rams into 3rd and long situations, and that's where Macdonald's blitzes showed up. Here, for example, it's 3rd and 9, and Seattle rolls from this 2-high safety shell into a 3-deep fire zone blitz that overloads the right side of the offensive line. The weak side edge defender drops into coverage while the Mike linebacker and the nickel rush the passer. Stafford never saw this coming. You can see Colby Parkinson begging for the ball as he adjusts his route to give Stafford a hot read, but Stafford never looks his way. Instead, he throws it away, and the Rams are forced to punt. Stafford went 0 for 4 on 3rd down tries in the second half, and the average distance to the sticks on those 3rd downs was 11 yards. McVay's offense did not run the ball efficiently when it mattered, nor did they make up for it through the air. Matthew Stafford averaged just 4.6 yards per pass attempt in this game. That's his lowest average in a game since 2018, over 7 years ago. It was one of Stafford's toughest games in a Rams uniform. But he did get the ball to Puka Nacua downfield a couple times when he was isolated against single coverage on the outside. These few and far between shots down the field attack the biggest weakness of Mike Macdonald's defense. His wide corners, other than Devon Witherspoon, are liabilities, and that weakness would show up in a much bigger way the next time these two teams played. In Week 16, McVay leaned harder on runs from 13 personnel, but those calls were even less effective than they were in the first matchup. McVay's 30 run calls from 13 generated a total of just 97 yards for an average of just 3.2 yards per carry. The Rams, again in Week 16, did not run the ball efficiently against Seattle, but their use of 13 personnel did generate some big plays through the air. Take a look at this play from late in the third quarter. It's 3rd and 3, and the Rams deployed 13 personnel. The key here is alignment. Down at the bottom, 2 tight ends are split out, and up top, the number 1 receiver is a tight end, and the number 2 is Puka Nacua. This formation gives LA a coverage indicator. Seattle is obviously in zone because the defenders lined up opposite the tight ends out wide are cornerbacks. That zone ID tells Matthew Stafford all he needs to know. Pretty much regardless of the coverage call, Puka Nacua is one-on-one with the strong side safety. Post-snap, Seattle splits the field and sends a 5-man blitz, but the rush can't get home before Nacua gets free. He torches Kobe Bryant on a deep dig and takes it for a gain of 58 yards. 13 personnel looks don't get Seattle out of nickel, but they can give McVay's offense coverage IDs and favorable matchups. In this Week 16 game, McVay also leaned much harder on Puka Nacua in gotta-have-it situations. Here, for example, it's 4th and 5, and Nacua is sent in motion out wide at the top of your screen for a one-on-one matchup with Seahawks corner Josh Jobe. Stafford leaves the ball way inside, but Nacua wins at the catch point anyway, and that happened all game in Week 16. These Seattle defensive backs could not handle Nacua one-on-one. But a significant portion of his 225 receiving yards in this game came from zone-beating concepts, where there was no single defender assigned to Nacua. LA's last offensive snap of the game was one of them. McVay deploys 13 personnel with Nacua lined up as the strong side number 1, and the call is dagger. It tells the number 2 to run a divide route, stretching the defense vertically, and Nacua to run the dagger route underneath it. Post-snap, Seattle rolls into cover 3 robber, which tells Seahawks safety Ty Okada to rotate down into the middle of the field. Okada is carried vertically by the divide route, which gets Nacua wide open. Stafford's throw is perfectly placed, and Nacua takes it for a 40-yard touchdown in overtime. Downfield concepts like dagger can be very effective against teams that like to call soft zone coverage, which Seattle lives in. But the limitation of these concepts is the time they take to develop. Seattle's pass rush couldn't get to Stafford quickly enough to prevent these throws in Week 16. And that, to me, was the biggest reason why LA was so productive on offense in this game. Seattle's defensive front is better than LA's offensive line, but LA's receiving core is better than Seattle's secondary. This third matchup will likely come down to which disparity outweighs the other. If Stafford has enough time to hit Nacua on these zone beaters like he did in Week 16, LA will put up a lot of points again. But if Seattle's defensive line can get home in under 3 seconds consistently, plays like this one will be dead before they can develop. I expect McVay to lean on his receivers even harder in the conference championship. Puka Nacua and Davante Adams are just too much for Tariq Woolen and Josh Jobe to handle. The talent gap there is much bigger than the talent gap between the two fronts, and for that reason, I'm picking the Rams. However, the previous 2 games between these teams were not decided by this side of the ball. In Week 11, the Seahawks defense held the Rams offense to just 21 points, but still lost the game. In Week 16, the Rams offense put up 30 in regulation, but still lost the game. So the matchup between the number 1 offense and the number 1 defense could be too even to determine who wins. Week 11 was an entertaining defensive battle. Week 16, a scoring frenzy and a Game of the Year candidate. It's hard to believe that we're in for anything but an all-timer this weekend, and the winner will almost certainly be the Super Bowl favorite. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe so that you don't miss the Super Bowl coverage to come. But that's all I've got for today. So until next time, take care.